Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom.
In our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu flew to Washington, D.C. last week for the funeral of his longtime friend, Senator Lindsey Graham, and for strategic meetings with U.S. President Donald Trump. Netanyahu was greeted at the White House for his 8th meeting with President Trump and his first face-to-face since just before the outbreak of the war 5 months ago. In a video address aired shortly after his clandestine departure from an Israeli airbase, Netanyahu said that he was embarking on this mission with one clear objective: to ensure the security, strength, and the future of our beloved state of Israel.
Iran has released a video calling for the assassination of First Lady Melania Trump and her son Barron. The clip shows footage of Melania's public appearances and details her schedule and security vulnerabilities. The video, entitled "Where to Kill Melania," claims that the Secret Service uses the codename Muse when referring to the First Lady and describes methods of recruiting members of Melania's staff through financial incentives. The video concludes with a picture of Barron Trump and says, "This is only the beginning. Barron Trump, wait for us."
The IDF launched expanded security operations throughout the biblical heartland following a series of Arab terror attacks targeting Jews in Judea and Samaria. The Israeli cabinet held security briefings after 3 Jews were killed and several others were wounded in ruthless attacks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the cabinet approved widespread actions in Judea and Samaria, adding that Jerusalem is prepared to act broadly against terrorist strongholds threatening Jewish communities in the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria.
Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa said current security talks could ultimately lead to peace between Israel and Syria. Damascus does not recognize Israel's right to exist and is still in an official state of war with the Jewish state. But the Syrian government has participated in several rounds of U.S.-brokered talks with Israel. In January, both countries agreed to establish an intelligence sharing mechanism and to encourage diplomacy and bilateral commercial opportunities. Sharaa told a Qatari news outlet that Syria has no interest in confrontation with Israel and is, in fact, trying to avoid one.
The Iranian-backed Hamas terror group planned an October 7th-style attack on European Jews and Israelis abroad. Sources in Sweden have published the findings of numerous investigations into Hamas's extensive terror activities in Europe. The reports state that Hamas spent years forming an operational network on the continent. The terror group was preparing attacks on Jewish, Israeli, and Western targets on the anniversary of the October 7th Hamas genocide in Israel, before anti-terror forces acting on information from Israeli intelligence made sweeping arrests.
Anti-Semites in Italy have launched an online campaign calling on the public to report the location of Jewish and Israeli tourists or anyone with links to Zionists. The website includes a link to a Google document requesting the exact location of Zionists, including their hotels, vacation rentals, and the commercial establishments they visit in order to create a mapping of Zionist tourism. It states that the information collected is intended to record cases of Zionist tourism, property purchases, and Zionist neo-colonization in Italy. Walker Megnaghi, the president of the Jewish community of Milan, said mapping where Jews are is extremely dangerous and is reminiscent of the 1930s hunt for the Jews of Europe.
Greece has approved a €3.5 billion package to purchase Israeli missile defense technology. Athens said that the Israeli technology will create the core of its Achilles shield, a multi-layered air and drone defense network. Greek Defense Minister Nikos Dendias confirmed that Israeli radars and missiles will form the central part of Achilles' shield, adding that Greek companies will produce at least 25% of the system locally. The Israeli defense technologies will be added to Greece's existing battery of American Patriot missile interceptors and will provide Greece with one of the most sophisticated aerial defense networks in Europe.
The International Criminal Court has voted to terminate Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan following an investigation into sexual abuse allegations. Khan's attorneys published an open letter asking ICC member states not to remove him from his post, saying that his ouster could endanger the independence of future prosecutors. In 2024, Khan filed international arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on false accusations of war crimes in Gaza. The warrants against the Israeli leaders are still active and can only be withdrawn by a panel of ICC judges.
Thousands of Israelis participated in the Jewish state's largest Bible study held last week in the Judean town of Alon Shvut. The Bible Study Days program, founded by Rabbi Yoel Ben Nun 33 years ago, has become a major draw. What began as a summer development program for teachers has grown into Israel's largest annual Bible study.
The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization has voted to list the ancient Jewish capital of Sebastia as an endangered Palestinian World Heritage Site. This politically charged ruling comes at the request of the Palestinian delegation, which claims that the site suffers from inadequate preservation. Sebastia was originally known as Samaria, the ancient capital of the Kingdom of Israel. It was established by the biblical king Omri in the 9th century BCE and was renamed Sebastia by Herod the Great in the 1st century of the Common Era. Israel is investing millions of shekels to repair, restore, and reopen Sebastia while providing safe access roads and facilities. UNESCO denounced these efforts as an Israeli attempt to expropriate the site. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said this biased designation is merely a Palestinian attempt to erase and deny the Jewish connection to this land.
Christian Arabs living in Israel are increasingly proud to be part of Israeli society. A recent survey reflects that 37.8% of Christian Arabs said their Israeli identity is the most important part of their personal identity. Israel is the only place in the Middle East where Christianity is growing and thriving, while other countries in the region are persecuting Christians. Israel's ambassador to the Christian world, George Deek, said Israel has succeeded where much of the region has failed. It has created a society in which Arab Christians can preserve their faith and identity while participating fully in the life of the state.
Several thousand South Koreans from 50 countries around the world gathered in Jerusalem recently to show solidarity with the Jewish people and to pray for peace in the Holy City. 30% of South Koreans identify as Christian, and this community has boldly stood in solidarity with Israel. Michael Izhakov, Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Tourism, greeted the group, saying their decision to convene in Israel during these challenging times is a profound demonstration of friendship, solidarity, and confidence in our nation.
Israel's foreign ministry has announced the establishment of a working group to prepare for the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus' baptism. Jerusalem has appointed George Deek, its ambassador to the Christian world, to coordinate this mega event, which is expected to draw millions of Christians to the shores of the Jordan River. Deek said the event will be an opportunity for Israel to honor the Christian heritage of the Holy Land, strengthen its dialogue with Christian communities worldwide, and ensure that pilgrims who come here can experience the places at the heart of their faith with dignity, safety, and a true sense of welcome.
The North Pacific island nation of Nauru has announced that it is establishing an embassy in Israel's capital, Jerusalem. In 2019, the Micronesian island state recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. It has been one of Israel's greatest allies at the United Nations and even filed an opinion in Israel's favor in the biased case against the Jewish state in the International Court of Justice. Nauru will become the 10th country to open an embassy in Jerusalem, the undivided capital of Israel. Many more are expected to follow.
A municipal employee working on the beach in the southern coastal city of Ashdod discovered a rare 2,500-year-old Cypriot coin in the sand. Archaeologists with the Israel Antiquities Authority confirmed that this exceptionally rare silver-plated siglos was minted in the city of Salamis during the mid-5th century BC when the island was under Persian rule. This is the first intact Persian-era coin from the ancient city ever found on the coast of Israel. The IAA explained that coins from this period were often cut into smaller pieces for use in local trade, making this fine even more significant.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Gil Hoffman. He's a veteran political analyst. Gil, thank you for being on the show.
Pleasure being with you, Josh.
Gil, everyone here is talking about elections. Elections. How big a deal is the Israeli elections coming up?
It's a huge deal because it's the first election we had after the October 7th massacre. And it's the people of Israel deciding, are they going to re-empower Netanyahu in order to thank him for the security successes that there have been since October 7th? Or are they going to throw him out along with as many members of Knesset as possible to punish them for the failures of October 7th?
What's interesting is that, according to all polls, 70% of the population is conservative. They're on the right. So the election isn't if you're right or left, it's if you're for Bibi or not Bibi. Does that make any sense?
Well, the Shakespearean cliche of to Bibi or not to Bibi has been true in Israeli politics going back to 1996. And now more than ever, people are deciding his fate. And there are plenty of right-wing parties that people can vote for if they're upset with Netanyahu, but agree with him on pretty much everything.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you vote from these parties, the government that they're going to have to form is with the left and even with the Muslim Brotherhood. So isn't that something that a conservative would have problems with?
Everyone has to decide how to handle their vote strategically, Josh. It's not America where politics are boring of having only two parties to vote for. Here we have 30 parties to vote for, and you can make multiple statements with your vote, but you also have to make a compromise sometimes.
What's really puzzling to me, because I know the American system better, is that of the 30 parties, only about 10 get into the parliament. So doesn't that bother people? Like, isn't that a problem?
People need to decide whether they want to vote for one of the largest parties, like Netanyahu's Likud party, or whichever party ends up being the main alternative, whether they want to make a statement with a smaller party, or whether they want to take a risk by voting for a party that might represent them best. But if it doesn't get about 150,000 votes, then their vote could end up being thrown out.
What are the three main issues of this election? What are people going to the polls and thinking about before they make that vote?
I've been covering politics now for 30 years, and the polls always ask Israelis, what issue are you voting on more than any other issue when they go to vote? And the polls always say the economy when they're on the way in. And then they ask them on the way out, what issue did you vote on? And it ends up being security. So security is issue number one. The economy is issue number two.
If the main two issues are secure and economy, it should be looking very good for the prime minister because economically our economy's on fire. We haven't had security like this in a very long time. So does this look like it could give him some tailwinds?
Well, more Jews were killed on any day since the Holocaust on October 7th. That proved that our security is tenuous. And that came under his watch. That came when he had been the prime minister for the overwhelming majority of the time in the previous 20 years. And so if he gets blamed for that is Israelis voting on security, even if arguably since then on the Iranian front, on the Lebanese front, on the Syrian front, and on the Gazan front, Israeli security has improved. A lot is going to end up depending on one man's definition of whether Netanyahu should stay in power. And that man is the leader of the free world, Donald J. Trump. Right now, he's arguing with Netanyahu. If he decides he'd rather deal with somebody else, the same way that Obama decided, in the same way that Bill Clinton decided, then Netanyahu won't be able to say that he's in another league when it comes to Israeli leaders, and Israelis maybe will choose someone who the president of the United States would prefer to work with.
What we're seeing in the polls is also very confusing because if you watch right-wing media, then Bibi's doing amazing, like Channel 14. And if you watch the left-wing media, then Bibi is getting crushed and he has no chance of winning the prime ministry. So who's right? Is this just people putting their finger on the scale, or are they calling different groups of people? Why is there such a divergence in the polls?
Josh, you know the difference between a hamburger and a steak. And if you're looking at polls that are made for TV news, you're looking at Burger King at best. You need to look at the in-depth surveys that are done, that are legitimate, that are scientific, that cost money.
Gil, you're a veteran and political analyst, and you wrote a book called The Blood Libel Machine. It hasn't come out yet, but people are already starting to pre-order it. Can you tell us a little about that?
Josh, on October 7th, we were attacked on multiple fronts. There were 7 military fronts, as everybody knows, but there was also the mainstream and social media. And on that side, just like the military front, Israel was taken completely by surprise, was not ready, while our enemies prepared for it years in advance. And while the successes on the military front have been counteracted, we've learned from our mistakes. On the media battlefield, it's only getting worse, and anti-Semitism is spiraling around the world. And I'm here to tell you, the other side planned this. This is all part of the plan. That's why they attacked on October 7th. And the people who watch your show, they're the people we need fighting back for us. And I appreciate everything that they've done in this war, losing friends because they cared so much about Israel and the Jewish people. I thank them from the bottom of my heart as an Israeli and as a Jew.
Gil, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
First of all, thank you so much for caring so much about Israel and for praying about Israel and wishing for our success on both the military and media battlefields. To find out more about what went wrong and right on that media battlefield behind the scenes, you can buy my book, The Blood Libel Machine, at gilhoffman.net. It's going to be out just in time for Christmas. Pre-order the book and enjoy it during your vacation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
And now the truth from Zion.
Since October 7, 2023, the State of Israel has fought on more fronts simultaneously than at any point since its founding. Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Iran, and in Judea and Samaria. 7 theaters of conflict, directed by enemies who coordinated their attacks, timed their provocations, and believed that the sheer breadth of the assault would overwhelm a nation of 10 million people. They were wrong. For millions of Israelis, the explanation for why they were wrong is not found in strategy documents or defense budgets. It is found in something bigger and deeper, the conviction that the God of Israel has not abandoned his people. This is not a claim that requires anyone to disregard reason. Israel's military victories are the product of extraordinary training, advanced technology, precise intelligence, and the courage of its soldiers. The Iron Dome works because engineers built it. The Air Force strikes with precision because pilots trained for it. The ground forces in Lebanon fight with discipline because commanders prepared them. None of that is diminished by the recognition that something beyond human planning has been present in these events, something that the Jewish people have recognized, named, and relied upon for more than 3,000 years. The scope of what Israel has faced since October 7th is staggering. Hamas launched the deadliest attack against Jews since the Holocaust. Hezbollah opened a second front from Lebanon the following day. The Houthis fired ballistic missiles and drones from Yemen. Iranian-backed militias struck from Iraq and Syria. Iran itself launched ballistic missile attacks at the Jewish state, first in April 2024, then during the 12-day war in June 2025. And again during Operation Epic Fury in 2026. Each of these fronts was backed by the same patron, the fanatic Islamic Republic of Iran. Each was designed to stretch Israel's defenses to the breaking points. The tyrants of Tehran call this plan the Ring of Fire. Israel did not break. It absorbed the worst attack in its history on October 7th and launched a military campaign in Gaza that dismantled Hamas's governing and military infrastructure. Israel withstood thousands of rockets from Hezbollah and responded with operations that killed the terror group's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. It intercepted missiles from Iran using defense systems that performed beyond expectations. It conducted strikes across Syria, Yemen, and Iraq to disrupt supply lines. And when the United States joined the fight against Iran in February 2026, Israel was not a passive beneficiary. It was a full operational partner that had been fighting the same enemy on multiple fronts for more than 2 years. The Jewish tradition has a name for this: Hashgacha, divine providence. It does not mean that there is no suffering. The families of the fallen know the pain of losing a loved one. The hostages taken on October 7th and their families know as well. The residents of northern Israel who lived in bomb shelters for months also know. Faith does not erase sorrow, but it provides a framework for understanding why a nation so small continues to survive and prevail against forces that should, by every conventional calculation, overwhelm it.
When the children of Israel go to battle, the God of Israel leads us to victory. Our military success is directly linked to our faith in God.
When the children of Israel go to battle, Jewish tradition teaches the outcome is not determined solely by numbers, technology, or tactics. It is shaped by the relationship between the people and their Creator. When the nation of Israel goes to war, the God of Israel goes before us in furious vengeance and anger. The nation's resilience in the face of 7 simultaneous threats is, for many Israelis, evidence of something that cannot be measured, but can be felt. Israel's enemies have consistently underestimated this dimension. They calculate force ratios, missile inventories, and economic pressure. They do not calculate faith. The 7-front war is not over. The road ahead requires the same combination of military strength, diplomatic skill, and allied cooperation that has brought Israel to this point. But it also requires something that Israel has never lacked: the faith that the same God who brought his people out of Egypt, who restored them to their land, and who sustained them through every trial of the modern era, will sustain them through this one as well. From Jerusalem, this is the truth from Zion. Up next, shining light from Israel.
Located on Israel's eastern border, about halfway down the coast of the Dead Sea, is our beautiful national park of En-Gedi. En-Gedi is rich in natural beauty and spiritual significance. There are several springs here that feed into David's River, as well as the river of Argot. As a result, we have ruins here that date back as far as the Chalcolithic period, nearly 6,000 years ago. But today, we are going to delve into the subject of King David and the Psalms. The story of King David here in En-Gedi really begins with him defeating the giant Goliath between the hill of Ezekah and Soho. After he defeats the giant, the king of Israel, Saul, gives his daughter's hand in marriage to David. David's popularity begins to grow within all the tribes of Israel. When the army marches through the towns of Judea, the people scream, "God bless the king! Long live the king who's killed his thousands, and long live David, who's killed his tens of thousands." Unfortunately, Shaul becomes extremely jealous over David's popularity. And as a result, he will chase David all the way here to En-Gedi, to the springs here, where he's going to try and take his life. David, realizing that King Saul is high on his tail, hides out in one of the caves that lines the canyon here at En-Gedi, just like the one I'm in right now. Hiding out in the cave, miraculously, a spider webs a web that covers the entrance. Saul, needing to relieve himself but not wanting to do it in front of his troops, sees the cave, sees the spiderweb, assumes it's safe to go in, takes away that spiderweb, enters the cave, and Yoav, King David's general, whispers in David's ear, saying, "The Lord has given you your enemy. It's time to take his life." David responds to Yoav, saying, "Who am I to take the life of the anointed one of God? I am but a trusted servant of the king." But what he does do is he takes the tunic of Saul and he cuts off the corner. The next day there'll be a confrontation between the two, and David will show the piece of the tunic that he cut off from him. Let's head up to the top of En-Gedi to see where that confrontation took place. In addition to all of the incredible biblical stories and narratives that we can delve into here at En-Gedi, the place is maybe even better known for all of its hiking trails through these beautiful tunnels made from bamboo and the waterfalls that kids and adults both go swimming in. It's really a great place to bring the family. After a solid hike up to the top of David's stream, which by the way, the entire loop takes about 45 minutes, we can see where the canyon comes together and the first springs that feed into the stream occur. And it was here that David's camp on one side and King Saul's camp on the other side could face one another, but still too much distance for them to fight. David looks at King Saul and says, "If I wanted to kill you, I could have done so yesterday in the cave. And to prove it, here's the corner of your tunic." Saul looks down, sees that if David wanted to have killed him, he could have. They kiss, they make up, and for the time being, they have peace between them. This game of cat and mouse between King Saul and David will play over and over again, all the way into the death of King Saul. However, because of this newfound peace, at least for the time being, between King Saul and David, David will always look to En-Gedi as a place of refuge and a place where he can seek out peace and quiet, even when he's king. And it will be here in En-Gedi that he'll write most of Tehillim, the book of Psalms, in which he says, "Just like the wings of an eagle protects its young, the canyons of En-Gedi protect me." In addition to the incredible beauty here, En-Gedi also has a great visitor center, a small cafeteria, and picnic benches so that you can refresh yourselves after an incredible day enjoying its beautiful nature. Thanks for tuning in today. And on your next visit to Israel, and the day at the Dead Sea, make sure to visit the Nature Reserve of En-Gedi.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.